to this special edition of the Coffee with Digital Trailblazers. Today, we are broadcasting live from Appian World in Denver, Colorado. All kinds of great announcements this week. And I'm here with Greg Aldana.
Greg Aldana, you said it perfectly here. And we are
Perfect.
live from Appian World 25, where we premiered our DevCon today. So thanks for having me, Isaac.
Awesome.
Excited to be here with you.
Awesome having you here. I'm
Yeah.
just going to give everybody a few seconds to join.
Yeah.
And welcome to this special edition. We have not, this is a first for me, doing a live event. So, we'll see what it turns into. And today we are covering a special topic. I know it's dear to you, Greg.
Yeah.
And we're talking about driving AI innovation, applying value-based storytelling to win buy-in. So lots of ways to unpack that.
Sure. Yeah.
What I'm really interested in is this notion of value-based storytelling.
Sure.
We've got a lot of listeners here who are technologists, data specialists, product managers, people who are aspiring to be CIOs and chief digital officers and data officers one day. And big part of what they need to do is learn how to sell their big ideas.
Sure.
Right. So that's my first question for you. What is value-based storytelling?
Sure.
And what can you share to this group around selling your big ideas?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here. As someone who's been in technology my entire life, I've been developing software since I was in third grade. I've really held a lot of different aspects of roles throughout technology. I've been a buyer. I've been someone who's been implementing. I've obviously sold. And I've been here at Appian, a little less than a year. I've spent some time in another software company. And I will tell you, when I was a customer and I was purchasing software and I was implementing software, I spent about 15 years in the US government. What I was most interested in hearing about was not demonstrations of features and functions, as I wanted to hear great examples of what other customers were doing to digitally transform. This is what I was most interested in. This is what I found inspiring. This is what gave me ideas. This is what gave me confidence. So fast forward here 10 years later, here I am at Appian, and I'm coming in as a new global VP leading our solutions consulting team. And so I've introduced this new concept of SC 2.0. And one of the pillars is value-based storytelling. So value-based storytelling, I'll give you an example. When I first got here to Appian, I'm looking for all the great stories and examples of how people are using Appian technology to digitally transform. And I'm reading all these stories and all they talk about is the tech. And I said, wait a second. And all the way at the end of the story would be the business value of what the outcomes were. I'm like, we've got to reverse this.
Right.
Value-based storytelling is leading with the outcomes, leading with the so what, the last page of the book first,
Right.
the movie trailer that shows you the exciting moments. Is it more compelling to talk about a process that we automated and we integrated and we had a portal and we had mobile and we had data fabric and process mining? Or what if I tell you that, hey, there was a customer that cut 18 weeks out of their clinical trial processes using Appian Automate?
That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. You've got my attention here. How did they do that?
Right.
So one of the things that I've introduced to Appian now is that every SC in my team, my global team, about 130 SCs, has to produce at least one new customer story a quarter that follows this new storytelling format that leads with the outcomes, leads with the values, the cost savings, the time savings, the new business opportunities. Did they retire stuff? Did they open up a new business line? The so what? And then we do the what and the how. But it's always within the context of these features and functions are producing these business outcomes. And that's what people really care about. Before you came into this room today, because this is a live event, I was meeting with a pharmaceutical customer from Europe. And he said this to me literally: I need you guys to come in here once a month and tell me stories about what other customers are doing, not just within pharmaceuticals, but in other industries. And that's what I love working at a company like Appian. We've got thousands of customers in different countries and different industries, and we really get to help them digitally transform. So value-based storytelling, whether you're telling a story internally or externally, lead with the so what. Why do I care? And it's probably the number one thing that I talk to CIOs about. Probably meet with about 200 CIOs a year globally, and their biggest problems aren't technology problems. It's organizational change management. It's culture. How do I get people to buy in to doing a new way of doing things? And when you lead with value-based storytelling, you're addressing the pain points. I don't know if you know this, but human beings, we are obsessed with pain. We spend 10 times more on painkillers than we do on vitamins. So if you want someone to come along for the ride and you want someone to change in your organization, you're trying to sell a new project or a new platform, a new idea, focus in on what's painful and how you can solve that, and they will listen. So it's a really good takeaway for value-based storytelling, painkillers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have a bunch of great stories. I want you to share a few of them here. Let's start with a huge pain point CIOs in particular are feeling today.
Yeah.
Operations are feeling today.
Yeah.
Let's talk about supply chain.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of disruption, a
Yeah.
lot of places where companies are looking for cost savings in general.
Sure.
Give me a good story around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. A customer that I've been working with a lot since I got to Appian is JLR, Jaguar Land Rover. You know, based out of the UK. You know, vehicle manufacturer, world known. Everyone knows Jaguars and Land Rovers. We see them everywhere. But you'd be surprised how outdated their supply chain processes were. A lot of swivel chairs. Like one story. So they really started using Appian in their finance department. And you know, in the manufacturing of vehicles, you have to purchase materials.
Yep.
You know, and they're always changing, new cars, new materials, and they don't just sign that contract once. Every year they're looking at new negotiations. Hey, can we lower the prices? Can we get a better deal? Can we buy, you know, materials from a different manufacturer? And this process was being managed, spreadsheets, email, Microsoft Access databases. I remember those from the 90s. I built them, right? And a little bit of Salesforce. And this process was convoluted. Even the negotiations, they were tracking them in spreadsheets. They'd send an email, go update it in the master database. And then finally somebody goes into SAP and updates the SKU of the material, you know, the manifest. It was a ridiculously outdated process. And so what they decided to do was eliminate all this swivel chair and the spaghetti mess and create one streamlined orchestrated workflow with Appian using our data fabric. So eliminating these access databases, but not replacing SAP, decoupling the process layer or the engagement layer or the layer of agility from SAP and these ERP systems. They just use our data fabric to virtually manage it. And they were able to manage this end-to-end process. They cut the time by like 75%, huge. And now people weren't in spreadsheets and email. They just logged into their Appian portal where they could view the different materials, the different people bidding on it. They could do all the negotiations. It was one streamless workflow. Another example kind of in that same genre, Merck, pharmaceutical supplier. And they had a very similar convoluted process for managing the production, the procurement of all the clinical supplies for clinical trials.
Yeah.
And they were able to use Appian in a very similar way to orchestrate that end-to-end workflow, abstracting you from all the underlying SAP and Oracle systems. And they reduced the amount of errors by 16%. And they had goals for global adherence in terms of how quickly they had to get supplies to clinical trials. And they increased that adherence by 20%. Just amazing how these different industries, auto manufacturers, pharmaceuticals are using the Appian platform to help orchestrate and automate a lot of their supply chain issues.
So issues like, you know, just managing the timeline, managing the risk, reducing errors, getting out of just really painful processes for the people who are working on them. Ultimately, you know, things that can really hurt customers. Can you imagine Jaguar sending to their dealers or their customers, hey, we had a supply chain issue.
Sorry.
Underneath it was a spreadsheet issue.
You're not getting your Land Rover this week because it's going to be delayed because we can't manufacture the parts for the seats or for the engine. But really what it is doing, because for too long, everyone has these very complex environments, every company with all different data sources and convoluted things. And for a long time, it was like, well, you have to wait until we fix all that to automate. By using this approach, supply chain's never going to be simple. It's always going to be a lot of different entities. You simplify the orchestration and the agility of it. So
great. So supply chain, check that box.
Got it.
Let's go to another area. Let's move to the back office a little bit more. We had Mike Beckley.
Mike Beckley. Yeah, our CTO, Mike Beckley.
His
founder.
CTO, Appian, was on the Coffee with Digital Trailblazers a few months ago. And he said the most boring AI use case is intelligent document processing. Something that's been around for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Lots of different issues with it in its first incarnation. Getting a lot more accurate because of things like generative AI.
Yeah.
Give me a real story around it. Who's really saving millions with intelligent document processing today?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great anecdote from Mike Beckley, because sometimes you think of document processing, that's boring. That's not the sexy stuff that we're thinking of, but it's a lot of problems because the problem you have is documents are unstructured. and there's no good way to query or get at the information in there. So a great example that comes to mind is the Texas Department of Public Safety,
Okay,
big, longtime customer of Appian, and they award hundreds of millions of dollars in contract every year to keep the roads safe and keep the state safe. And basically, they were spending so much time on all of the questions people had about procurements. There's lots of rules, over 10,000 regulations, and they were able to use Appian to completely automate and ingest all these documents and basically extract all of the information from these documents into a coherent database so that people could just ask all the procurement questions. So they automated 10,000 contract questions and regulations, and they were able to automate 15,000 different contract actions. So
Wow.
whether you were a procurement support staff, somebody bidding on a contract, and if you had a question, you could just pull up a chat bot inside of Appian, ask it a question, and now you didn't have to wait days for someone to go look up the procurement answer. You got it answered in seconds. I mean, just so profound.
That's cr-
And as a developer, and I talked about this at our keynote for DevCon this morning, one of the great things about the solution, they added this intelligence capability in hours and they rolled the whole thing out in less than 3 months. Like, I mean, this is fast. This isn't like, oh, that project's going to take 10 years. It's about getting to the answer and getting, a lot of these automations and transformations very, very quickly. We've become a very impatient society. We have everything on demand on our phone. We don't want to wait for the system. So it's perfectly suited for a technology like Appian.
And I can think of every CIO out there sitting on top of all their sourcing contracts, going to somebody in the PMO, asking a very simple question like, when do these contracts expire? When can I make some renegotiations? And somebody has to go do all that work on the back end. And now they're augmented by an agent.
Well, they're augmented by an agent, but like they were also concerned with security and privacy, and they wanted to make sure that all of this information was just going to stay within the Texas, confines, and that people couldn't hack it or it wasn't taking information from the general public. And so, using Appian's kind of private AI, they were able to do that and keep that all safe, so that they were basically asking queries of just their information that was curated. Because I know that's important to a lot of CIOs. So, if your team is telling you it's going to take a long time, you need to get Appian in there. Sorry.
Right. So now I'm going to go to another area. One of
Yeah.
the things that I'm always talking about whether we talk about process automation, we talk about low code, we start looking at the platform and saying it can solve a lot of different problems for me. I can solve supply chain, I can solve contracts and document processing.
Sure.
What about the entire customer and employee experience, right? How do we make our ability to use agents, to use AI, to use automation, actually solve problems, really important problems for people?
Yeah. Probably one of the most profound examples that really kind of like touched me here when I got here was with a company called Acclaim Autism. They have a really important mission. They develop therapies and coping mechanisms for children with the autistic spectrum disorder, so that their families can get involved. There's some software, there's medical professionals. It's a really noble mission. And as a parent, I have two daughters that have learning disabilities, and we've had to get them some help along these lines.
I have a child with learning disabilities. When you announced
Yeah,
that this morning, I was like,
it can be very stressful, as you're aware, and you want to help your child, and the time to get them that therapy actually impacts how successful the development can be. So time is of the essence. And before they engaged with Appian, it was taking on average 6 months to onboard and get access to care. 6 months.
That's
What can
crazy.
change in a year? That's completely unacceptable. But when you looked at it, the reason was it was a very convoluted process. People had to send in forms, people had to follow up with phone calls, people had to manually look stuff up. With Appian's AI, they used us literally within a few hours. They deployed the solution within 3 weeks. They reduced that onboarding time from 6 months down to 10 days.
That's crazy.
And so this improved the life of multiple people, as you
Right.
asked about, the customer, the family, uploading all their documents. They just went to one seamless portal, intelligently put in all their different documents, and on the back end, Appian's AI was automatically ingesting them, reading them. And what I learned throughout this whole process is that in clinical medicine and behavioral medicine, there's no standard format for doing an autistic diagnosis.
Right.
You could have 100 children with the same diagnosis and their doctors record it differently.
Yep.
And so it's perfect for AI
Especially
having
something like autism, which has a lot of different causes, a lot of different issues. It's a spectrum.
it's an entire spectrum. There's different degrees of the diagnosis, and then insurance covers certain, and then you have to use certain types of therapies and providers. So to match them with the right therapy and the right provider, and then schedule that time. This was all swivel chairing for their clinical staff. They had to type stuff into spreadsheets, go into Salesforce, do all these things. And they eliminated, they had one seamless portal and dashboard where they could just work within one system, made life better
Yep.
for the patient and their families, made life better for the employees of Acclaim Autism, and really making a difference in our society.
Right.
You know, really helping a really important part. I mean, it's becoming more prevalent in our society, more children have autism, and so getting them access to this treatment is just critical.
You know, what I think about when I hear that story and I connect it back to supply chain, I connect it back to procurement.
Yeah.
These are all situations where there's a lot of data that's involved in it.
Yep.
It's a lot of real-time information. And these are not straightforward, if this, then that type of decisions. These are lots of factors that go into making a decision with a lot of data. And you're making it easier for people to either automate those decisions or bringing it in front of people to make decisions a little bit faster.
Exactly, exactly. It's just, look, I'm a techie. I've been my whole life, and I love the technology, but it's the purpose. I mean, to bring it back to value-based storytelling, what is the value of all this? It is producing outcomes like that, getting people access to care, making somebody's work life that much more easier and enjoyable.
Yep.
The funny thing is like maybe 30 years ago, you went to work and you had the best technical experiences and the best technology, and at home, you know, you had that little home computer everyone shared. Now it's just the opposite. I go to work and it's all convoluted and swivel chair, and my phone and my personal life, I've got all the best tech. And so now the industry's trying to catch up with tools like Appian.
So maybe we start out with a little bit with some of the jargon that goes behind what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And my listeners, I try to help them understand it.
What does this all mean?
What does
right?
this all mean? So let's unpack a few terms here.
Sure.
Data fabrics.
Data fabric.
Let's start with an easy one.
Yeah.
Why should anybody care about that?
You should be confused because there's a lot of companies out there using that term incorrectly. Data fabric is not remote tables and I just query data from a million different sources and I build all the integrations. What we actually have a patented data fabric, and really what a data fabric is in the Appian universe, it is a virtualized enterprise data layer. So regardless of what's underneath, whether you've got information stored in documents, unstructured, whether you've got an RPA bot to go and scrape a mainframe system, whether you've got APIs into internal systems like SAP, Workday, ServiceNow, Oracle, we can bring all of that together in one logical layer, and the virtual layer manages that all for you. So you don't have to, if you change one of the underlying systems, you don't have to worry about managing it. The virtual data fabric, it manages it for you. And the reason this is important, this is critical, and it can allow companies like Acclaim Autism to build things in 3 weeks and in hours, is because once you've organized and configured your data fabric, your virtualized data layer, now building workflows or queries or reports to take action, you don't have to worry about, well, what is that field called in SAP? And I have to join it with that table over in Workday, and ServiceNow has this, and Salesforce has that. You just have one logical vendor table where I can just do the query off of that. And as I change the systems underneath, I don't have to rechange the applications above. And that's what allows you in Appian to be able to configure workflows and AI very quickly, because once you have that data fabric, you basically have access to all the data inside and outside of your enterprise. It doesn't matter what format it came in, it is all virtualized and normalized into one layer where you can take action off of it. That's a true data fabric. So anybody out there who's telling you they've got data fabric, ask them if it does all that.
It's pretty impressive. And so connecting also back to the types of clients you talked about, and just walking the halls here during Appian World.
Pretty cool.
You've got some like really big enterprises. You've got, you know, members of the federal government here. And then you're talking about an autism nonprofit company. You're talking about a local government institution. You're bringing these capabilities to really big enterprises, regulatory compliance, and then down to some smaller organizations as well.
Exactly. Technology is becoming the great equalizer. And I think, you know, there's a lot being written about AI and the impact it's going to have. And time you turn on CNBC, something's going to be the most profound thing of our lifetimes. And I agree with that. But it's also, it's evening the playing field.
Yeah.
It's going to, you know, a couple of years ago, somebody interviewed me like, well, with AI, you won't need developers anymore because AI will just build all the apps for you. I said, not true. You will need developers, but a developer now will be that much more powerful. A developer can now build a sophisticated system in hours that used to take teams of like 20, 30 people years to build.
Right.
Now they can build it in a few hours. Think about what they can do. Now a small developer at a startup of 3 or 4 people doesn't have to go out and hire a big GSI to do it. He can do it. So, and the things that these bigger companies are going to do even be that much more remarkable. So it's just a really exciting time to be in tech. But you're right, technology and AI is becoming that great equalizer. It's almost democratizing automation, if you will.
Yeah, I used to call it the big cheat.
Yeah.
In fact, in my books, I call it the big cheat. It's
Oh,
like,
I like
how do you
that.
help that medium-sized organization that can't have Netflix-sized organization or talent,
Yeah.
or the full cloud-enabled service delivery lifecycle with all the DevOps capabilities and all. But now I kind of start building some basic block and tackling stuff like bring my CRM data and bring my ERP data and give me a full 360 of a customer, and then go build out applications out, and then go build automations out, and now build AI out, right? So let's talk, what is uniquely in the Appian world when it comes to AI?
Wow. That's a great question. And I think what's so compelling about what Appian is doing, what we're doing with AI, is that, look, most customers are confused. I probably talk with 3 or 4 customers a week, and they're all really confused. Every time I turn around, this company's got their AI copilot. That one's, which one do I choose and how do I go about it? And what you're going to hear about a lot in our keynote from our CEO today is that Appian's approach to AI is very different because we're not bolting it on from the outside as an afterthought. Seen lots of commercials from a lot of fancy tech companies around, hey, I'm going to automate my travel approvals, and I'm going to automate all this crazy administrative work. And it's all these AI agents being bolted on outside of the process and as an afterthought, just as an observer, or just do a lot of this swivel chairing. Whereas Appian's approach is about putting AI within the process. By putting AI within a business process, and you can actually now program the intelligence to take action when things aren't going correctly, to make better decisions. It knows what the end outcome is. So if it's got to reroute things in a different way of like, this isn't happening the right way, or we're getting a bottleneck here, I can actually take action on that. And if you look at some of those things like Acclaim Autism, when they're diagnosing different things, if there's a problem, or they have to go out and find a different provider or a different insurance claim, or like they can actually make decisions in the moment. If you're just an AI agent on the outside of that, you're bolting it on the outside, you're not going to get the value from that. You need AI agents within your processes that are smart, that are embedded, that are governed. They can give you insight, real-time insight into actually what's going on inside of your processes and make recommendations about how to do it better. So what's very unique about Appian's approach is we really have a cohesive, unified business transformation platform where we bring together AI, data fabric, and process improvement and process optimization, so that you take all 3 of those elements, which is very rare to have on a single cohesive platform, and now it's magic. You can now actually self-optimize in real time and actually give the process mining intelligence about the analysis of a process to an agent that's built into the process in real time.
Right.
Just mind-blowing. I mean, mind-blowing, the improvements you can achieve with this approach. Now, you might say, well, Greg, I could do that with 1,000 tech companies. I've seen all the advertisements. They've got process mining, they've got data fabric, they've got AI. Yeah, okay. The difference is a lot of these other technologies out there that have these capabilities, they're all disparate technologies under the same platform umbrella. You as a developer have to bring them all together. On Appian, they're all brought together for you. And I've have developers on my team that have developed on a lot of these other, help desk based or CRM based, automation platforms. And they're like, we can build really sophisticated things about 20 to 30 times quicker on Appian, because this was a platform built with the developer and the orchestrator in mind. So all of those capabilities are all hand in hand. But really the takeaway, it's AI within your business processes to provide intelligence. And that's the best way to use agentic AI. You want agents within your business process, not sitting outside.
What I'm also hearing here is more of a systematic way of looking at an agent, right? So we're not just looking at a task or a group of tasks that I'm already doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's just taking something I've automated and just making it a little bit smarter, maybe with a little bit more data, maybe a little bit less rules driven. That's great. But I'm looking at, insurance underwriting.
Oh my
I'm
God.
looking at, how a bank makes decisions around loans. I'm looking at real business decisions and saying,
Settling claims, you know,
settling
yeah,
cl-
someone-
let's recreate it with, now that we have our data and our fabric,
Mhm.
let's recreate it from the ground up and saying, what are the types of decisions? What are the types of outcomes? And then where do I put human in the loop around it?
Yeah. Well, for a long time, people had the analysis to do that process mining, but they would just find the problems. They didn't fix them. With Appian's approach, we have those agents that are embedded that are saying, hey, we looked at the way you underwrite loans, we have a recommendation, and here's the fix.
Yeah.
Like that's like, it is probably the most powerful worker ever invented, the AI agent that's going to actually help businesses get better outcomes. Unbelievable.
It's incredible. So we're here at Appian World.
We are here.
We are about to hear the keynote.
Yep.
I've met your CEO. I've contributed a chapter to his book.
Matt
on
Calkins.
I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
I love the personality of the executives on stage.
Yeah.
It's a very unique environment. This is a group of people, I saw this last year at Appian World, that have been working together for something like 25 years.
Since 1990, they weren't their college buddies. They founded the company
So
together.
this is a group, if you ever want to see what great culture looks like over a sustained period of time, come to Appian World, come see the leadership group. It's quite amazing to see a group that's been doing this and passionate about what they're doing through many generations of technology. And now here we are. What's exciting to you about what Appian is announcing this week?
I think probably the most exciting announcement is our new Agent Studio, which has been kind of understated until today, but that launches today right here. And it is a studio where you can create AI agents on the Appian platform with no code. You come in and you just literally can type in natural language a goal about what you want this agent to do, and it will go to work. It'll take the data, the tools it needs, and it will come up with the best way to actually go and achieve that business process from everything that's environment. I mean, this is like a completely new era of orchestration, of business orchestration. I've never seen anything like this. And I've been developing software since the mid 80s, Logo Basic, a computer camp in some woman's basement, creating the
We're
rectangles.
not in spreadsheets.
I know, yeah,
anymore
we're
either.
not we're not spreadsheets anymore, and it's just going to completely change and transform the way I don't think people realize how profound this is, because you've seen so many advertisements from different tech companies. This is a total game changer, Isaac.
Well, I'm excited to see it and hear the announcements.
It's going to be
Maybe
great.
kick the tires on it. You'll hear me writing about it
Totally.
over the next few weeks. Agent's really important.
Very important.
It's going to be a game changer for organizations as you think about how to really not just improve productivity, but really rechange how you're operating, rethink the customer experience, rethink how to do things at scale, rethink the compliance factors, take the swivel chairs out.
Oh my God, take the swivel chairs out. Enough of the turning around. So,
Greg, it's been great having you.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
My first guest on the live.
Hey,
Coffee
my
with
first
Digital
LinkedIn Live.
Trailblazers.
So this has been a lot of fun. Look to be back soon, and happy automating.
Thank you to Appian for having me here at Appian World. Thank you for sponsoring today's event. Thank you for all of you who have been listening and commenting today at the Coffee with Digital Trailblazers. We will be back Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for our normal program. Folks, have a good one.